verses. John, Gospel of John, chapter 11, 1 to 4. I'll read it for you. Now a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. This Mary, whose brother Lazarus now lay sick, was the same one who poured the perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. So the sister sent the word to Jesus, Lord, the one you love is sick. When he heard this, Jesus said, this sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. Today we're going to talk about the death of Lazarus. Do you remember which chapter of book of John we just read? 11, right? Do you know how many chapters in the book of John? Come on, church. 21. Yes. At least I hope that you know Matthew 28, Mark 16, Luke 24, John 21 chapters. This is basic, right? The Bible Foundation 101. I hope that our level, New Christian level, at least like that, right? You should know that. So all the book of John, chapter among the 21 chapter, we just read the middle chapter, right? One of the center chapter 11. It's not just the middle of the volume of the book. Actually, this is actually the one of a pillar, this chapter of the book of John, because John chapter 1 to 10, it's about ministry of Jesus' life. And there's John chapter 11, just we read. And from John chapter 12 to 21, we see the ministry of Jesus' death. You know the Christians only only religion celebrate the death of their founder. The other religion like Buddhism or Muslim that they celebrate, they focus on their founder's teaching and their life and ministry, their life, but about death, it's like one sentence or just one page among the whole their scripture. But if you see our gospel, 1/3 or half of each gospel, they talk about Jesus' death. Because Jesus is the only one. Because he's not human, he's just God who can walk with his death. Human cannot walk with death. They can walk with their life. Right? I mean, if they die, that's it. There's nothing they can do with their death. But as we know, Jesus did something great with his death. And that actually that's like a bigger message than Jesus' life. And that's the reason that every church have a cross, the symbol of Jesus' death. On his death, he took our sin, and then he gave the opportunity for forgiveness and salvation, so we celebrate the death of Jesus, right? So again, the John chapter 11, it's a kind of pivotal in the middle of as a transition between Jesus' life, ministry of Jesus' life, and the ministry of Jesus' death. And in the middle of there, we talk about the death and resurrection of Lazarus. So this is a really kind of a transition, like a pillar of the book of John, change our attention. What's really going on the death of Jesus' life and resurrection through in the middle of the book, death and the resurrection of Lazarus. So the story go on. As you know, the famous three names come up in John chapter 11. You know them, right? These are siblings. They're famous. Lazarus, and I think among all the siblings, the most famous siblings, Lazarus, Martha, and Mary. They are the siblings. And Lazarus, as you just know, the one that Jesus resurrected. There are actually two people in New Testament that Jesus resurrected. You know who they are? One is Lazarus. The other one was the daughter of Jairus, 12 years old, right? But the daughter of Jairus, she was just dead, and I don't know, like few minutes or 1 hour later, Jesus resurrected her, right? So maybe medically we can think, oh, maybe she really didn't die, just like her heart stopped a little bit, but she just come up. Maybe even we can think about it. But do you know Lazarus, how long it has been that since he's dead that Jesus resurrected him? 4 days. Even Jesus was resurrected after 3 days, but Lazarus was in death for 4 days. So as you know, in the weather at that time, that when Jesus arrived there, they said, teacher already decayed, smells bad. It's a progress. His body, the decay, rotten things progress. It smells already bad. So after 4 days of death, Jesus, rose him again. So it's amazing. Lazarus is a very important person. I mean, I think it's the biggest miracle among all that Jesus performed, right? That's Lazarus. And his sister Martha, the famous Martha. I recently found that the Batman's mother is Martha, right? But like the story like Martha, Martha, you worry about so many things, but even one is important. Like she's a representative of all the hard worker in the church, like who's responsible for church kitchen. That's like the image of Martha, right? And who's Mary? The one who poured the expensive alabaster jar perfume on Jesus' feet to prepare his burial. That famous Mary, right? So these siblings are very famous. One chapter they show all of them: Lazarus and Martha and Mary. And among them, so the story going on. It says Lazarus was sick. In the past when I read this passage, I think I read like 20, 50 times over these passages, but usually when I read John chapter 11, the story of Lazarus, I usually jump to quickly about his death and resurrection because that's the miraculous thing and important. But this time, for the first time, when I read this chapter, the word that he was sick came to my heart, and actually it's because of our church members. The Adult Bible Study recently, Friday 8 p.m., we do Bible study through Zoom. And I really, appreciate, enjoy, or give thanks for this Bible study because especially 2 cancer fighters join our Bible study. I think if we were in-person Bible study, they wouldn't be able to join it, but because it's online Bible study, while they are fighting against cancer, going through chemotherapies, they are joining Steve and Jennifer. And the chemotherapy, right? One session is like several weeks. And now Jennifer going through 4 chemos, and the Steve go to 6 chemos. So like last few months, the whole year 2022, actually every week we heard from Jennifer and Steve what's going on in their life. It was for the first time we see they lose their hair through the Zoom, and they share their mouth is sore, the muscle is painful. They share their cancer fighting every week through Zoom. It was really privileged to me. I indirectly working with them. It gave me more opportunity to pray for them as I hear and see them every week. So being sick. In my age, it's not strange at all if I get cancer. That's like around my people, around my neighbor, like so many friends start having cancer about my age. So I'm more like ready. How painful it will be, how difficult it will be, the body aching, muscle, and all the things. Kinds of a very, very, very precious time for me recently, the Bible study. And because of that, when I read this passage this time, Lazarus was sick. Before we jump up his death, how long would he have been sick? This sickness eventually led him to his death, right? So whatever sickness he had, it was progressing. Pain was getting deeper. He had more difficulties and then pain every day his life. How long? 6 months? Year? They didn't just try to check up to Jesus. Hey, Jesus, come to help my brother. Maybe when brothers showed a sign of a sickness in the beginning, like a fever, sick, they just try to find their local doctors and try to find some way. Maybe when the time they try to look for Jesus is the time they think, wow, there's no hope anymore. Too much pain, enough a sign for death. We're really desperate. We need to do something. Let's find the Jesus. And think about the ancient time. How could they find the Jesus? There's no telephone. There's no internet. Or there's no clear address. Maybe if Jesus lived a certain town like Nazareth, they could send somebody. But problem, he was traveling. In ancient time, if somebody was traveling, how could you catch them up? Right? If they heard the rumors, Jesus appeared at the city of Capernaum. So they sent to somebody. Few weeks they traveled to find Jesus. About that time, he already left to go to the next city or different place, right? How long would it have taken for them to find Jesus, invite him to come over to take care of his brother? And during that time, his sickness was getting deeper and worse, progressing. That really came to my heart while I'm reading this time. Wow, they really went through a difficult time. before Jesus reached. And you know the story, until Lazarus died, Jesus did not arrive, right? So what would the Mary and Martha and the Lazarus, they've gone through all this process? How much difficulties would have they gone? That's the kinds of what I was thinking about. And you know what? When the news at last arrived to Jesus, this is Jesus' response. When Jesus heard that Lazarus was sick, Jesus said to his disciples, "This sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it." You know what? Jesus said this before the disciples. What if Martha or Mary or Lazarus heard about that? I mean, if you're very sick, you're dying, somebody, your pastor call you, "Hey, bro, your sickness, your suffering is for God's glory." Do you think you'll be happy? Right? I mean, if you go through some difficulties in your life, you're so suffering, have a pain, and you are agony, and someone tell you, "Hey, this is for God's glory," how you would have felt? The good thing is they didn't hear that, but if they heard it, they would be very painful. And again, if you hear in the midst of your severe suffering, somebody tell you, or God even tell you through your prayer, "This is for God's glory," how would you have felt? If you ever felt, "I'm very angry. What are you talking about? It's for glory of God, this much pain and suffering. God, what are you doing?" If you ever answer that way, actually you are misunderstanding whole purpose of your life. What's the purpose of human life? Bible is very clear, right? What's the purpose of our life? Why were we created? Why were we born? Have you ever asked that question? What's the purpose of my life, God? Why am I born? Why do I live? Why am I here? You ever ask this kinds of fundamental question about your being, your existence many times in your life, right? Could you find the answer? Bible is very clear. You are created for glory of God, right? You know, the many places in the Bible, like Isaiah chapter 43:7, that my people whom I create for my glory. And you know, Philippians chapter 1:11, the people are created to grow up to the glory and praise God. And now, as I shared before, it doesn't mean that we are used for glory of God. It's a privilege. You are the being who your life and what you do is connected to God's glory. I mean, think about glory is not fitting for me, but let's say honor. Can I be honored by my cat? Like my cat behaves so well. Somebody visit my, "Oh, pastor, look at your cat. We honor you." No. If my cat's behavior really good, say, "Oh, you found a good cat. You're lucky." That's what people will say, right? When is the time that I'm honored? If my son, daughter, if they show some good life and virtue, then they say, "Wow, your son is good, your daughter is good." Then I am honored. Is that right? Right? I mean, recently we have some joint event among the children and youth, and then our children director Sam. After event, he always, not always, but many times he comes to me and says, "Oh, Pastor JJ is awesome." "Oh, what do you mean he's awesome?" "That he's just so responsible. He takes care of the younger ones as a youth." I'm surprised. Hannah and I are surprised. We've never seen it. Maybe he behaves very differently. At our home, he's the youngest, but when you go outside, when he was somebody younger than me, he looks like a very behavior, his behavior different. And when I heard that, what I feel? I'm so proud of him. At the same time, when he said, "Hey, Pastor, you should be so proud of yourself that he's very responsible." What does that mean? You did a good job as a father. I'm honored by my wife, by my children. They can honor me. Actually, I was very honored last Sunday when my church members come to host, the Korean caucus dinner. I mean, other church pastors, other church members, other leaders. Wow, the new creation. That when they see my member good, honor come to me, right? If you go somewhere and somebody says, "Whoa, you are so faithful, Daniel or David or Neil, whoa, which church are you attending?" "Oh, new creation." "Who's the pastor there?" You know what I'm talking about? My reputation upon you, my honor upon you. That's what God's saying, that my glory upon you. You are created by my image. You're not like just a living creature. You are closely connected to me as my image, as my children, as my partner. What you do, your life, I am glorified by you. That's a privilege, honor. That's the purpose of life. The Bible says God in the beginning create human being in God's own image. Right? That glory is the purpose of our life. But you know what? We exchange this purpose with very superstitious, religious, the value like happiness, right? I mean, if I ask you, hey, how's your life going? If any of you answer me like, it's going well. What do you mean? Job is okay, my body health is okay, relationship is okay, things okay. I mean, very worldly value, you think, I'm okay. If I say, how are you doing? If you say, Pastor, it's not going well. Usually, what's the standard? The job is not going well, stock market, the falling down, or like, my health is not good, my relationship is broken. Is there any standard in your life to answer, my life is good, well, okay, depend on glory of God? Because the Bible said that's your purpose, right? I mean, whether everything's going well or not in your life, if there's no glory of God in your life, if you're not glorifying God through your life or in your life, what's the purpose? Why you're being? And have you ever asked like this question after you wake up in the morning? Am I living well? If my life is going to the right direction, am I going to the right track? I ask many times, where is my life going? Am I going to the right direction? And again, what's your standard for right direction and right way, and then the true valuable life? If you think, okay, house is good, pension is good, okay, retire is coming soon, okay, children doing okay, everything's okay, is that your standard and value, your life is good? Then you just lost your purpose. What Bible says very clearly that you are created by God for God's glory. So when Jesus said to the Lazarus, this sickness is for glory of God. His life and death are fulfilled. It doesn't matter whether he die or live, that his life is going to right direction. His life is meaningful. His death is meaningful. That's Christianity. Come on, like, don't think why you come in church like 30 years, 50 years, still like don't have the same value with all these, the indigenous, the supernatural religion only talk about God will bless you, everything's going okay. Even heaven is extension of your happiness. You're not sick, everything's going well, your mind is peaceful. Heaven, even you will be better. Is that the heaven, right? We now like that, the Christian, the true value of our life, the purpose of life, glory of God. And it's coming, are we glorifying Him? It's coming through our life. That's the important thing, right? Apostle Paul was very sure about that when he said his life, like Philippians chapter 1:20. You know that. He said, I will have a sufficient courage so that now as always, Christ will be exalted. God will be glorified in my body, whether by life or by death. Whether I'm suffering or whether I'm happy, whether I live or die, doesn't matter. Most important thing is Christ will be exalted through my life. Because of that, he said this, the famous thing that for to me, to live is Christ and to die is gain. Even death is okay. We are in religion. With death, we can glorify God. All other religion, death is death. It's over. But to us, because Jesus can resurrect at any time, to Jesus, death is not death, is just sleeping, right? What's the difference between death and sleeping? Death, you're not going to wake up again. Sleeping, you're going to wake up. So Jesus, whenever you see somebody's death, he said, she's sleeping, he's sleeping. Why? Because he had a power. He's the Lord of the life and death. He could wake up whoever they are dead or not anytime. So we are in religion, even death and life, both of them can be used. The true purpose for glory of God. So ask this right standard and question, you are Christian, your difference between this worldly people is not like just coming Sunday, going to Bible study, I believe in God. That's not real difference. The real difference is your value system, standard, the way you see, evaluate your life, the way you feel like you fulfilled. Am I a glory of God? Through my life, is God glorified? If that's achieved, whether you're sick, whether you're unhappy, whether bad thing happen in your life, there's no problem in your life. You are that kinds of the privileged people. We actually have our own wish. I hope God glorified through my life, and at the same time, I'm successful, prosperous. So through my success and prosperity, praise the Lord. That's actually what we want, right? We don't. I mean, should we really go through suffering always to glorify God? That's like a question come up our heart. Let us be winner. God has been the winner. Our life is good. Maybe Abraham was a source of blessing. So through him also God glorified. We want that too, right? So for that, let's just visit one more passage in the New Testament. Do you know we have two Lazarus in the Bible, in the New Testament, and especially Book of Gospels? Who's the one Lazarus? We just see Mary and Martha's brother Lazarus was the other Lazarus in the Bible. The beggar Lazarus with the rich man, right? You know the Luke chapter 16. There's a story. This is totally separate story, just the same name but different story, different person. This is not even real story. This is a parable. Luke chapter 16. There was a story of rich man and the beggar Lazarus. There was a rich man who was dressed in purple and fine linen and then lived in luxury every day. At his gate was laid a beggar named Lazarus, and longing to eat, who what fell from the rich man's table. You know this story, right? I think there only one place in the whole Bible very vividly describing the afterworld, the life of the heaven and hell. Like, you know, the heaven is like Abraham's psalm, hell like a fire. It's like the only place is described very vividly. But you know, the point of this story, it's not just a rich man was cursed or a poor man was blessed. It's not like that. The important thing is about their connection. It's not a rich man or a poor person. They are connected to each other. Rich man knew Lazarus. Because, you know, remember the story later when rich man see the Lazarus with Abraham's son. He already know, oh, Lazarus is over there. So Lazarus was not just a stranger. It was a known person to rich man because, very clear, every day at rich man's gate, door, he was lying there. Right? That at his gate, rich man's gate, that the beggar Lazarus laid, and then he was begging. So it's more like a not rich man and poor person story. It's the story about rich man who was not responsible, who failed to take care of the people around him. That's the point of the story. And then the worst part of the story, the regret of this rich man. Later, after his death, when he was in hell in the story, when he see the heaven, he allows to realize what's going on. Actually, he's actually asking, hey, Abraham, the father Abraham, what's going on, right? When he asked it, Father Abraham said, hey, son, that when you are alive, you received all the good things. And because you received the good things and this Lazarus received the bad things, that now it's happening like this. It's more like a sarcastic way that's saying, it says, remember. Remember means it's not something new. You should remember your life, how you have lived while you're recognizing the person around you not taking care of him. So at last, the rich man realized what's happening. That's like my image of the after death. If we go either heaven or hell, I mean, we don't have to talk about that specific way, but if we die, I think what will happen is we will know what we didn't know. I mean, when I'm doing something, if the people around me, whether they offended, whether they suffered, do I know? Usually I don't know, right? But if I die, I think I will know. Oh, it's that what they were going. It's like, the God angels from heaven, they see what's going on in our life, right? So what we do not know about other people, when we die, the information will be revealed, and I think we will know. And then when we know, what we will respond? Wow, I should have known it. I didn't know that person was that much suffering around me. If I knew, I would have visited that person. I didn't know that I hurt that person that much at the time. I didn't mean it, but now I know. I should never say that. I should never done like that. Those information, I think, will be revealed in heaven, right? A lot of regret. But the good thing about life, if you regret now what you have done in the past, you still have a hope. That's what we are doing, right? As we get older, like when I look back when I was 20s, I should never live that way. Maybe I should never talked that way. I should have taken care of more the people around me at that time. So life is full of regret as I get older, which means good, I think I'm wiser. Good thing for me, I'm still alive. I have opportunity to catch up. Maybe those people that I didn't take care of when I was young, but I should have done, but I didn't do it. Maybe I can't see them anymore. But instead of them, I can take care of people around me right now, right? If we know something we didn't do fully well while still we are alive, it's a blessing. What's the worst part of this man? He didn't know until his death. Only after he died, he knew, oh man, I didn't know that Lazarus was always there, was suffering too much. I should never take care more. Oh, I didn't know. But can he do anything differently now? He's already dead. So what he was asking? Father Abraham, please send Lazarus to my brothers. I should have done it. I didn't do it. I don't have opportunity anymore. But my 5 brothers who still like me, rich, right? Maybe they can live differently from now on. But Abraham said very clearly, but there's a Bible, right? Not the dead person, revisit the person. The Moses and prophet already told them there was a Bible. You had a Bible. You read it. You didn't know. They are reading. They don't know. If they cannot find the answer while they are reading the Bible, then there's no way they can be redeemed. I mean, we all read the Bible. When have you ever found a new meaning, deeper meaning, more profound meaning that touching your heart happen? When your life is good? To me, most of the case, when I'm going through suffering, difficulties, I have new eyes. Open out my eyes, and then while during the suffering, I should never understand other people's suffering more. I become more humble. The meaning of the Bible come up during our suffering. What was the problem with this rich man's life? Every day was so good. Every day, the rich man who was dressed in purple and fine linen clothes lived in luxury every day, so he didn't have opportunity to understand the people who are suffering because he didn't suffer. What's the blessing? If the glory of God is the purpose of life. If our purpose of life is not just live happily, luxury, good, safe, comforting life, if that's not a goal of our life, it's a goal of our life is to be a glory and praise of God, to glorify God through our life. And suffering is a blessing because that makes us deepen, understand more, have more capacity to understand other people. I mean, I'm not praising suffering. I'm not saying everybody that, hey, you should suffer to be like a God. I'm not saying that. But whether joy, happiness, success, or sorrow, or disease, or whatever, if you cannot find a way to glorify God through them, then they're not meaningful. Your happy life will not be meaningful. Your sad life will not be meaningful if you cannot find the glory of God through it. But whatever it is, if it helps you to be a glory and praise of God, then that makes your life. In many cases, generally, suffering is very helpful. Right? So instead of like, God, why this thing happen again? What are you doing? Why are you not responding? Why am I going through this? Instead of responding that way, right? Let's just embrace them. We always have a suffering, right? All kinds of suffering. One thing happen, if that thing gone, next thing come. If that thing gone, next come. We all know that, right? Life is like a wave. It's like a coming again and again. And whenever bad thing happen, like, again, oh God, usually that's our response, right? Where's your blessing, right? Where's your love? But let's just take all of them. These waves and things happen, or suffering, or disease, whatever, this is for glory of God. So even life and death does not matter. Your life will be fulfilled as you, through them, bad things, good things, suffering, or disease, or death, that we can be the glory of God. That's the true meaning of life, what Bible testify. We are Christian. Even death, even suffering can be meaningful because we can glorify God through it. Let's pray.